Kim Jong Un, the leader of I should say, of North Korea, and Moon Jae-in, the elected leader of South Korea. I don't want to imply that Kim Jong Un was not elected, but I think there's some questions about that election, and so they met at the demilitarized zone. I guess this happened yesterday, right? Or
Right.
overnight. They are basically looking to end there haven't been active hostilities, but to end the Korean War, which is basically 65 years after, more or less, of when the actual fighting ended. Let's play this. I'm going to narrate it because there's no audio, but it really is stunning. Basically, Kim Jong Un and his entourage walk to the demilitarized zone. He is the first North Korean leader to step
Yeah.
on South Korean soil. They walk to, and there's like a small wall, right? Like a 6-inch wall that denotes the line. And here they are. They're shaking hands. And Moon Jae-in shakes, with Un's hand, and they talk. And then he says, "Step over." He steps over the line, and there's the big deal right there. He's in South Korea, in the DMZ, on the line, and they take pictures for the North Korean press, and then they turn around, they take pictures for the South Korean press, and there's some audio here too, right? Just keep the audio up, and they're taking pictures, and then Kim has a suggestion. You want to take a step over, and Moon Jae-in says, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." And so they walk across, and they're shaking hands in North Korea. You always wonder what they're saying to each other at that point, right? Like, "You're a good guy. I know you're a good guy." I don't know now. Everything's in. But then Kim Jong Un walks back into South Korea for the start of talks, ostensibly
Yeah.
to demilitarize, or I should say, denuclearize the peninsula, and then off to the races.
Right.
Ben,
Right.
what do you think?
I mean, clearly it's a historic moment. I don't think it could be overplayed, and I don't want to understate the significance of it. The cessation of hostilities, like you said, there wasn't a hot war, but the war never technically ended. This is the first step for them. The next step is ostensibly to speak with the United States and China to talk about denuclearization, what that actually looks like. But the drastic shift in Kim Jong Un's policy or approach and tone is it's drastic, but it seems to be very strategic. He achieved everything that he wanted to achieve in terms of getting a seat at the international table and being able to almost force himself into the international community. And so there was no need. He actually said as much. There was really no need for them to go further because I think he was at a negotiating position that he could get the maximum the maximum that he could get without taking us into some type of cataclysm. And so I think it was a very strategic move on his part if things actually go the way they look like they're going. And that's always been the big question mark with North Korea. Are we actually going to go down the road towards peace? They've promised this in the past.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So let's assume for a moment. I mean, there's two scenarios, right? One is like Kim Jong Un meets with Trump, gets all the photo shoots he needs, and nobody really ends up giving anything, and he walks away from the talks and says, "No, not gonna do it." And I've given up nothing. But look, everybody's admitted I'm a guy you got to meet with, and I've just brandished my bona fides to
Yep.
any constituencies in North Korea that may be looking to overthrow me or think that there's certain weaknesses or the general population. The other is that they actually say, like, okay, we're going to agree to stop our nuclear weapons program, or we're willing to just stop at one weapon, let's say, and not develop a system for carrying it, or maybe we'll give up our weapons in exchange for X, Y, and Z. But how is this tenable? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine the scenario too, based upon what we've seen around the world. Now, maybe it's a very different calculation. Gaddafi gives up his weapons or his pursuit, and then, you know, 6 years later,
Yeah.
you're done. You're in a, you're put into a hole.
Right.
What's to prevent that? Like, where is what is the stasis? Like, if they do actually negotiate, what is the sort of like stasis look like? Because you can't all of a sudden say like, oh, we're not going to guard our border anymore, because
Right.
North Korea doesn't seem like a very pleasant place to live. And if it opens up as a society at all, it's going to get very, very difficult to keep that bottled up. I mean,
Right.
the one of the things that sort of brought the wall down in Germany was like,
The people.
was concerts though. Was
Right.
like, holy crap, what's going on? Like music. And, I mean, I remember when I was like 20, I had visited East Germany. You could go for a tour. And I remember just coming back, like all it would take would be like you fill up a bomber with American toilet paper and drop it on the population, and there'd be a revolution within like 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you have to take in consideration the fact that Kim Jong Un is going to every step that he's making is to preserve his regime. There's really people float the idea of unification. There's really no possibility of a unified Korea where there's no longer a North and South, because you have two distinct regimes, and that's just not a possibility. Kim Jong Un is doing everything to preserve his regime, and so that's the real question to ask. It's like, how does this move strengthen the Kim regime? And if it happens to strengthen his regime and the result is peace, then so be it. I mean, I think that's a win for the international community. But what strategy actually? Where does it? How does this play out? I mean, there's so many different ways that this can go, and you're absolutely right. So they're going to clearly have to protect their borders, or else they're going to see a mass exodus. South Korea is going to some extent, is going to have to not only recognize but legitimize and support the regime to prevent that from happening. So we really have to look at South Korea. What type of concessions are they going to give up, and what are they going to do to ensure that the regime is not threatened? Because the minute the Kim regime is threatened, all bets are off. I mean, the tone will change as quickly as it changed in this instance.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is like, how can Moon Jae-in, who he doesn't have the same, I guess, constraints in terms, or the same depth of determination to maintain his power, but how can he
Right.
go to the South Korean people and say, okay, we have traded with them, they're getting rid of their nukes, and but we need to construct a 40-foot wall on the demilitarized zone. I mean, right? Like, or, we also need to shut down any broadcasts, or we need to, we're shipping in, maybe we ship in food and this and that, but it's all going to be distributed through Kim Jong Un's, a rolling food dispensary. I mean, whatever, like that's what's going to have to happen. And it seems to me
Right.
the South Koreans are going to have to sort of like suck it up and say, we're going to have to actually help keep this guy in power.
Right. But then there's the other side of it, right? So you have a modernization process. I mean, think about the elites from North Korea. The elites would absolutely love the opportunity to modernize North Korea and all the business opportunities that would be created from the South. I mean, there are people who will seize on that from a very neoliberal perspective to jump in there and to bring industry, whatever they could, to actually modernize North Korea, but also profit off that modernization process. I think the elites are really what are going to drive this, and to the extent that it can bolster the regime, still I think is the bottom line. So at the base of every negotiation, how does this protect the Kim regime? We just have to see how it plays out. But I think there's some opportunities to do this without putting up the 40-foot wall, without having an open society. And I think they may be going down the path of modernizing the North more so than everyone escaping the North.
And so is this do we have Donald Trump to thank for this? If this works, I mean, it's just like his existence as an energy force, brings everyone else together. This is like, this is like
Yeah,
me and Bill Crystal sitting on a set at MSNBC, and we come together. Is
yeah.
it when I mean, is it all because of Donald Trump? I mean, is this? Is that? Does Trump deserve credit?
Trump deserves credit in so much as he doesn't mess this up. I don't know what rating the show is. So long as he doesn't mess this up, then sure, credit him for not messing it up. But you can't you can't belittle the contributions of President Moon Jae-in, the Candlelight Revolution over the last year, the hundreds of thousands of South Koreans who protested and led to the impeachment of the right-wing government there, and then the subsequent election of a far more liberal government that actually sought, to the behest of the United States, better relations with the North. So, I mean, the United States, Donald Trump literally was making the situation as bad as it possibly could be. So there should be, hopefully the good people in Oslo have better thinking capacity than some people who are suggesting that Trump deserves the Nobel Prize, because there should be no Nobel Prize in this for him. It should, if anyone, go to the Candlelight Revolution and President Moon Jae-in, and maybe if Kim Jong Un actually goes through with this. I mean, it's way too soon to discuss that end of the bargain, but he would deserve it before Donald Trump.
Yes, but this is my plan from the beginning. All right. Well, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see what goes forward and to watch Donald Trump. Trump is already now tweeted out, I guess, today, right? An end
Yeah.
to the Korean War to end.
Sam, I'll give him this. He does know how to turn on a dime, and he knows how to seize on the opportunity of looking good. And in this case, it's the same thing as President Moon Jae-in giving Donald Trump credit. It's because we know that if you stroke Donald Trump's ego, you can get what you want, and he won't, push his big red button like he was talking about last year. So I'll give him credit for turning on a dime and being willing to seize on this opportunity, because him making this about him is actually beneficial to peace.
There you go. Benjamin Dixon praising Donald Trump. We will clip that, and we will do a whole segment.
That's
on
the end
it.
of my career.
We're going to do a whole segment on it.